Hello and welcome to everyone across the nation joining today's workshop on adding users. This is Martha Perez with the CASAS Technology Support Team, and I will be presenting today's workshop. This workshop focuses on how to add user accounts and manage users in your online database. This function is available with both basic and enhanced access. In other words, a TE license or collective agreement is not required. This is one of 23 complimentary workshops for CASAS Online Implementation Basics. We highly recommend attending as many workshops possible to learn about best practices and ask questions to become confident in using the online system. Online help is available on our website from Training and Support, eTest Online Help, CASAS eTest Online. It's available from Training and Support, eTest Online Help, and TOPS Pro Enterprise Help. You will want to be sure and bookmark these as your electronic go-to resources. Electronic resources are updated periodically, so going to them will help to ensure you are receiving the most current information. Information for today's workshop comes from eTest Online, CASAS eTest Online User Guide. Okay, I'm going to go back to my first page of the guide. Now the guide has hyperlinks throughout to help you move quickly between sections. For example, I'm going to the table of contents and I'm going to click on section 8.10 for adding users, and this will take you straight to this section. Again, you will want to bookmark electronic resources and search keywords to pinpoint specific information when you need help. Before we get started, I want to be sure and point out where you will find access to CASAS eTest Online and TOPS Pro Enterprise Online. This is the main domain name address you will use when your agency is set up with an online database. This is commonly referred to as the production server, where live data is produced. For today's workshop, we will be using a simulation server for a fictional school called Rolling Hills Adult School. The simulation server is populated with fictional data to give you a realistic training experience. This is available to anyone wanting to experiment and explore our online system without risk of compromising live data. You will find information on how to access a simulation server from Training and Support, eTest Online Help, Getting Started, and download the simulation server document. Okay, now let's begin, and please feel free to ask questions along the way. Now, access to the online system requires a user account with login credentials. All user activity is tracked and recorded in the online system, so it is important not to share login credentials. To understand adding users, you must first understand how users are managed through access groups. If you attended the workshop on access groups, this portion of today's workshop will be a review for you. For those of you who have not attended the workshop on access groups, the information I will cover now is important to understand before adding users. When your agency is initially set up with an account in the online system, CASAS establishes a user account for the ET Basic or the TE Enhanced user, who generally is the person managing your data. The ET Basic or TE Enhanced user is responsible for adding all other user accounts in your online database, and you may place any user in an agency-controlled access group to grant access to TE. Granting access to TE does not require coordinator or proctor certification. Access to e-tests does not include access to TE. Okay, let me look for my table here. Bear with me. Okay, here we go. Now, access to CASAS e-test online is not automatic after completing coordinator or proctor certification training. Upon training completion, the newly certified coordinator or proctor must notify the main point of contact, either ET Basic or TE Enhanced user at the local agency, and request the setup of their eTests online account. The ET Basic or TE Enhanced user is responsible for adding a user account for the coordinator or proctor in the agency's online database. After the account is in place, the main point of contact, ET Basic or TE Enhanced user, then sends an email to the CASAS Technology Support Team with authorization for CASAS to enable access to CASAS eTests online. In other words, CASAS will not enable access to CASAS eTests online without the agency's knowledge or authorization. When so notified, CASAS places coordinators and proctors in a CASAS-controlled access group as authorized and sends notification to the agency within 1 to 2 business days. Let's connect to TE and take a closer look at the setup of a user account. To access TOPS Pro Enterprise for the first time on a local computer, click the TE Client or Install link at your upper left corner of the web browser window. Now, a client application will install on the local computer to connect with the online server. A shortcut icon is automatically placed on the computer desktop. Now, TE, let's see here. If you're a user who will access TE frequently, you may want to pin the shortcut to your taskbar along the bottom of your computer monitor for quick access when other applications are open on your screen. Okay. Now, TE opens to a login screen similar to eTests, except that you need to specify the server from the drop-down menu. We will be connecting to the simulation server. The simulation server has generic accounts for administrator, coordinator, proctor, and teacher login so that you may experience different types of user access. Coordinators and proctors do not automatically have access to TE. Access to TE may be granted by the agency to anyone with or without coordinator or proctor certification. Now, users enter the same login credentials to access either eTests or TE because there is only one database shared between the two applications. After entering login credentials, such as I'm using today's, which administrator and a number between 1 and 50 at rhas.org, admin for password, then click Connect. TE opens to an empty screen. Now, all data and reports are displayed from accessing menus along the top left. At the top right, displays the logged on user, application version, and general screen controls. All user activity is tracked and recorded in the online system, so it is important not to share login credentials. User accounts are part of the organizational structure of your online database. To access from the Organization menu, click Users. A list of records, commonly referred to as the Users Lister, opens to display user accounts set up in your online database. For optimal system performance and ease with managing users, we strongly recommend placing users in an access group. At most, a user may belong to one CASAS-controlled access group and one agency-controlled access group. Take note of the first 4 users in the list. Notice we've given e-test coordinators and proctors TE access. A teacher has enhanced access to TE to manage classes and generate reports. And Rolling Hills Adult School has a TE enhanced user to manage data who is also certified as an e-test coordinator and proctor. If you place a user in more than one agency-controlled TE access group, this will result in conflicting rights. In other words, the TE group with least privileges will take priority. To add a new user account, from the toolbar at top left, click New. Now a new tab opens to input user information in 5 distinct sections. Selecting container, entering user identification and contact information, setting menu, and data access rights. The next workshop will cover personnel records of which user accounts may be linked. Personnel records. Now, when a personnel record exists, you may check the box to link with an existing new user account. Otherwise, you may link accounts when the personnel record is added. This is recommended. In other words, add user accounts first and then link when adding personnel records. You have the option to add user accounts at the agency level or parent container, which in this case is Rolling Hills Adult School. Or you can click the down arrow in the container field and select the site or child container to add a new user account. Because the online system is a relational database, accounts in the parent container have access to information in all child containers. In other words, users will have access to information contained in all sites listed below the parent container. If a site-based account is set up, the user has access to information only at the site or within the child container, and any subsites within the child container. Having only one account per user is recommended to avoid confusion with multiple logins. Each user account has its own user identification or set of login credentials. If a user changes a password with one account, this has no effect on the user's account at another site. For example, if you have a user who proctors at different sites, the recommendation is to add the user account at the agency level or in the parent container so that the user has only one account and one set of login credentials. Or if the user proctors at different subsites, the recommendation is to add the user account at the site level so that the user has only one set of login credentials to access all subsites within the site or child container. The user account, and password comprise login credentials issued by the ET Basic or TE Enhanced user to access eTests or TE. We recommend using a work-related email address as the user name. We're going to enter a new user. Okay. New user at agency.com. Now I'm going to enter password. And then retype the password. Passwords may be changed or reset by ET Basic and TE Enhanced users when needed. User accounts may also be disabled rather than deleted if you anticipate re-enabling access for the user in the future. To add the user to a group, either type to search in this field or select from lister. In this case, I will select TE Basic. And then click Add. You may remove users from groups from either the user account or from the access group. From the user account, click the red X box at right of the group name. Other authentication settings may be enforced, such as suspending an account after a specified number of attempts to log in, not allowing concurrent logins, and periodically changing passwords. Okay. The minimum contact information when adding a user account is first name, last name, and email. Work-related email address is preferred. Now you may enter additional contact information if needed or as needed or required at your agency. CASAS may enter a contact ID to match the contact record at CASAS if an ID is not already entered by the agency. The recommendation at this point is to save the new user account without any further setup. From the toolbar at top of the user information screen, click Save. To close the user information record at top, click the red X box on the tab. The new user account now should display. Let me scroll all the way down. Here we go. Now displays in the users lister. As with all records displayed in a lister, double-click to open detailed information about the record. The reason that we recommend saving the new user account after entering user identification and contact information is that the user will inherit menu and data access rights assigned to the access group they were assigned. Again, the recommendation for optimal system performance is to manage users through access groups. When an account is managed through an access group, the message displayed for menu access rights specifies that if the user is not placed in an access group, the user will have access to all menus. If the user is not placed in an access group, if the user is placed in an access group, the user will inherit access to menus assigned to the group. This is where the optimization for system performance takes place or takes effect. Notice that all boxes for access to menus are shaded. Shaded boxes generally have no specific access rights set. In other words, access is inherited from a higher level where it is either granted or denied. In this case, the user will inherit access to menus assigned to the TE Basic Access Group. Refer to the Access Groups document to identify initial settings defined for the TE Basic Access Group. Agencies may augment this group as needed. A similar message is displayed for data access rights when an account is managed through an access group. As with access to menus, boxes for access to data are also related to indicate no specific access rights are set for the user. Instead, the user will inherit data access rights defined for the TE Basic Access Group, where access is either granted or denied to list, view, create, update, or delete data. Hopefully, after looking at menu and data access rights settings, you can understand why CASAS advocates managing users through access groups rather than managing user accounts individually. Again, to identify initial settings defined for TE Basic Access Groups. Okay. Refer to the Access Groups document, keeping in mind that the agency may augment this group and other agency-controlled TE access groups. All right. Now, if you have a user who is a member of an access group and perhaps needs access to a menu or data function that is otherwise not granted by the group, you may augment the individual user account to grant access. You may also deny access to menus and data functions that is otherwise granted by the group. Page 7 in the Access Groups document explains the three-state model used by the online system to grant or deny access. This applies to access groups as well as individual user accounts. Each TE access group has preset rights to menus and data. Users placed in a TE access group inherit these preset rights. This table defines the three-state model TE uses to represent menu and data access rights or settings. Access rights in TE are represented by shaded, checked, or empty boxes, as seen on this table. When users are members of an access group, a shaded box indicates that access to menus and data are inherited from the group. A checked box indicates that access to specific menus and data is granted. And an empty box indicates that access to specific menus and data is denied. Are there any questions about the setup of a user account? Until now, we have been connected to TE as an enhanced user with access to most all menus. Now, And also the data functions have been enabled. Now let's see the difference when connecting as a new TE Basic user. At top left, click the TE icon, then disconnect. Now we're going to enter login credentials for our new user. And then we're going to click Connect. Notice the limited access to menus at the very top. To give you another example of the difference in access, let's disconnect and reconnect as a coordinator. From the TE icon, click Disconnect. Change the user account to coordinator. Enter the word coordinator, all lowercase, to log in and then click Connect. Now preview menus along the top. As you can see, notice coordinators have access to the organization menu. Coordinators generally have the added responsibility of monitoring the setup of sites, users, testing sessions, and stations, as well as access groups. Now, due to their direct involvement with e-tests, even though coordinators have access to these menus, they can only list and view information and are not granted rights to create, update, or delete information. Okay. Now let's see the difference between connecting as a proctor and a coordinator. From the TE client link or the TE link at your upper left corner, click Disconnect. Now we're going to log in as a proctor. Again, entering the word proctor, all lowercase, as the password, and then click Connect. Now menus. Now please notice that proctors essentially have access to only two menus containing data, the records and reports. Now the records menu gives proctors the ability to provide a list of tests administered in a session, and access to basic reports if directed to generate at the agency. Now let's see the difference when connecting as a teacher. Now at top left, click the TE icon and then disconnect. Going to log in as our teacher. And then click Connect after entering login credentials. Now the TE Teacher Basic Access Group is the most restricted access to menus and data. Teachers with basic access can only generate basic reports and cannot create, update, or delete data. Okay. Teachers with enhanced, let's just change again and click the TE icon link, click here and say disconnect. Now we're going to connect as a different teacher now. We're going to log in as a teacher enhanced access and then click connect or hit the enter button. Now the teachers with enhanced access can manage their classes and generate reports for students enrolled in their class. Access the Organization Classes Instances menu gives teachers the ability to enroll students in their classes and record instructional hours. Teachers in this group also have access to generate additional reports. Okay. Are there any questions about user accounts and managing users through Access groups before we wrap it up? All right, folks, I will take that as a no. Now, if you are finished working in TE, at top left, click the TE icon and either lock your screen if you plan to return and continue working. Otherwise, you can click the disconnect link to disconnect from the server. And again, click the TE link and click exit to exit the application. Now, each workshop in a set of CASAS Online implementation basics builds on the last in a logical progression for helping you to get up and running with the online system. If you miss a workshop, we posted a playlist from past recordings so that you may review a previously attended workshop or preview upcoming workshops. You may access them from Training and Support, eTest Online Help, Workshop Recordings, CASAS Online Implementation Basics, and access them and others from our social media newsroom through our YouTube channel. Please note the information I will paste in a moment in our chat box about our CASAS Technology Support Team. The Technology Support Team is available to provide any technical assistance you may need to ensure successful implementation. This email address alerts a support team that includes several members. Communicating to the larger group will help us ensure you receive a timely response. Team members are available from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Time, Monday through Friday. We look forward to you joining us for the next workshop on adding personnel. Thank you very much for your time, and this concludes the workshop on adding users in your online database.